Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some cheesy pesto rolls or buns. These are going to be a swirl bun, rather like those cinnamon swirls, but it's going to have pesto and cheese inside, as well as just a little bit of roasted red pepper. They're quite simple to make. You make the dough, proof it, roll it out, spread the fillings over, roll it up, cut it up, proof it again, cut it up, proof it again, and then bake it. So it's not a difficult process, but it does take some time because we have to proof the dough, of course. So I'll go on to the ingredients. And for this I have 450 grams, which is 3 cups based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup of bread flour. I have 7 grams, 2 1/4 teaspoons or 1 packet of instant yeast. I have 4 grams, a scant teaspoon of caster sugar. That's just to help the yeast get started basically. I have 30 millilitres, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 300 millilitres, 1 1/4 cups of lukewarm water, and mine is at about 40 degrees Celsius at the moment, which is I think just over 100 Fahrenheit. I have 190 grams, 3/4 of a cup of pesto. I'm using the classic pesto, but I also have in my cupboard some sun-dried tomato pesto. That would work just as well, but I'm using the classic one. I have 100 grams, 1 cup of grated Gruyere cheese, and I'm using Gruyere because I have that in the fridge and it needs to be used, but it melts well. You could use cheddar, you could use mozzarella, it's up to you, but a grated cheese that will melt is what you want. And that's 1 cup. I have 50 grams, about 3/4 of a cup of grated mozzarella, 100 grams, 2/3 of a cup of chopped roasted red pepper. So these were in a jar of oil. I took them out, drained them, patted them dry, and then chopped them into fine pieces. I have 9 grams, 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, and I'm going to use 1 beaten egg for brushing over the dough before I bake it. So that's all the ingredients. And the first thing we need to do is to make our dough. And to make the dough, I'm going to pour my water into the bowl of my stand mixer. You can use any type of stand mixer, or you can do it by hand, but it will take longer by hand, of course. And then I'm going to sprinkle in my yeast and my sugar and the oil, and I'm just going to give those a little mix around. And that's good enough. And then I'm going to add in about half of my flour, and then I'll add the remaining half a bit at a time. And to that half of the flour I'm going to sprinkle my salt over that, and I'm going to mix that on a medium low speed until it begins to come together a little bit. And as you can see, that's quickly mixed together. So I'm going to continue on a low speed adding in the remaining flour, and I'm going to mix that until it all comes together into a shaggy dough. And that's just about in a shaggy dough now, so I'm going to increase my speed to a medium to medium high speed, and I'm going to knead this for about 8 to 10 minutes until it's springy and soft. And if I think it's a little bit too wet, I can sprinkle over another tablespoon of flour, and you can judge that for yourself, but I need it to be nice and soft and springy. So I have kneaded mine, and it's now nice and soft and springy. So that's good enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just form that into a ball with the excess that's clung onto my scraper. And I'm going to proof that. So it's a bit tacky, that's fine. A ball, and I'm going to put that back in the bowl like that, and I'm going to cover it with the lid of the bowl. Now you could coat that in a little bit of oil if you wanted to, and cover it with some plastic wrap and leave it to proof until it's at least doubled in size. So that could take an hour, it could take an hour and a half, 2 hours, but once it's doubled in size, I'll come back and we'll roll it out, fill it, and then prepare it for baking after it is proved for a second time. So my dough has doubled in size. I'm going to take it out of the bowl and put it onto a lightly floured surface. And I'm going to just flatten it, and I want to form it into a rectangle which is 30 centimetres by 40 centimetres. So that's 12 inches by 16 inches, and that will be the basis for my pesto swirls basically. And I'm just going to lightly flour the top as well in case it sticks. And if there's any air bubbles that appear, I can just burst those. And the dough, because it's very springy, will spring back. So if I have to rest it a little bit as I roll it, I will rest it. And that's just about rolled out as I need it. So then I'm going to take my pesto, and there's still some oil in this, which I'm going to leave some of the excess oil in the bowl. I don't need it too wet. And I'm going to spread that over the surface. And that's good enough like that. So then I'm going to take my cheeses and sprinkle those over as well. So that's the Gruyere, and then I'll put the Parmesan over as well. And that's good enough. And then I have my chopped roasted red pepper. I'm just going to drop that on. And as you can see, I've dropped that on, and I haven't been too precise, and you don't need to be. for things like this. So then I'm going to roll that up, and I'm going to take it from this long side and roll it up. I'm going to pinch the seam together like that. I'm just going to put some flour down here and turn that over onto the flour like that. And I'm going to divide that into 12 pieces. And it may shrink a little bit as I've rolled it, but it doesn't matter. Just dividing it into 12 pieces. So that's 2, and then if I divide each of those in half, and then each of those halves into 3. And I'm going to put the pieces on a baking tray. As I said, you can use a 9 by 13-inch roasting tray if you want to, but if you do it like this and make sure that the seam side is pointing inwards, and I have 4 rows of 3, they will join up as they rise. So I'll cut the rest, and I had my 12 cut out like that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover those with some greased plastic wrap, and I'm going to leave them until they double in size basically and join completely together, and then I will come back to bake them. And at that time I will have my oven preheating to 200 degrees Celsius, 180 Celsius with a fan, 390 Fahrenheit, and they'll be ready to bake. But I'll come back and show you them and brush a little bit of egg around the edge before I bake them. So my dough has risen now, and it's been probably about 45 minutes. My oven is preheated, so I've beaten my egg, and I'm simply going to, you don't have to do this of course, but I'm simply going to brush each of the rolls where the dough is exposed. That's just to help them with a little bit of colour really. And I'm going to put those into the oven and I'm going to bake them for 35 to 40 minutes until they've risen more and they've baked all the way through. Then I'll take them out of the oven and I'll leave them for about 10 minutes. Then I'll come back and show you what they look like and we'll have a taste of one. I baked my cheesy pesto swirl buns for 35 minutes and they baked up very nicely. I took them out of the oven and I transferred them to a wire rack just so that any excess oil that was leaking on the bottom could drip through the rack onto a tray. And I've left them for 10 minutes. So this is what they look like now. And I've actually broken one off and torn a strip of it off here so I can have a taste. So you could just open it up like that basically. So I'll have a taste of this piece. And drop some on the floor. It's crisp on the outside at the moment, which will soften as they cool down. But lovely and moist and soft inside with that wonderful combination of pesto and cheese. And of course the red peppers as well. So this is actually a very easy recipe. It does take time, but it's very worthwhile. And they're perfect just as they are for lunch or something like that, or even for breakfast. But they would also go ideally with some pasta dish for dinner. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.